Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday. And joining us now on set and right over here in the Virgin Islands, I got Big O there, but we also got Cecilia Iliesiu from the Nutcracker, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's put it on the wide, Curtis. Hey, Cece, welcome to the Morning Update Show.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here.
Yeah, no, this is great. We have so many questions for you. You know what I'm saying? There's so many questions about the ballet as a whole and everything else. Man, where do we start? I think a good way to start is there's a lot of our audience that have seen, the branding of the Nutcracker and seen the commercial of the Nutcracker and everything else. Maybe you could tell us what the Nutcracker is all about.
Yeah. Well, I have been doing the Nutcracker since I was probably 5 years old. So it's been 25 years of just part of my life and holiday tradition. I don't spend, besides last year during COVID where everything was shut down, was my first like normal holiday season. But I think the Nutcracker just exemplifies like the beauty and hominess and traditions of the holidays, whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa. It's just a beautiful holiday celebration where you get to see snowflakes running around the stage and different Land of the Sweet characters dancing on stage, and listening to the beautiful Tchaikovsky score is just spectacular. So I'm so happy to be back on stage this year after pause during COVID last year with theaters shut down. But the Nutcracker is so special, and we just love our audiences.
And I know Trey got a lot of questions for you, but you're the Sugar Plum Fairy. And what's the Sugar Plum Fairy?
So actually, that's one of 6 of my roles. So we have about 37 performances each season, each Nutcracker season. So Sugar Plum is one of my roles, but I also play Clara's mom, the Arabian Coffee, lead Spanish, among others. So each show is kind of a different challenge, but Sugar Plum is definitely my favorite role to play because it's been a dream of mine to perform it. And so to be able to be on stage with the lovely little angels on stage and having all the kids running around and be like, "You're the Sugar Plum Fairy, can I have your autograph?" It's amazing. Yeah, so this is my second year playing the role of the Sugar Plum Fairy with Danielle, who you'll meet later, is my wonderful partner and cavalier. But it's just been such a treat to play the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Okay, good stuff, Trey. Got Trey.
There we go. So you know what? That really brings me to my question about the characterization of all the characters in the Nutcracker. And since you've been able to play multiple roles, how do you embody? It's more than just dancing, right? Because it's also embodying that character. So I want to just hear a little bit about your process when you're going from one character to the next, depending on the performance you're doing. How does that work as a dancer, and specifically for the Nutcracker?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing this particular version. So this is George Balanchine's version of the Nutcracker. Each ballet company, for the most part, has their own version.
It's a remix.
But I did this version when I was a student in New York City. I grew up in Manhattan, and they do this exact same version. So I've grown up with this version of the Nutcracker, and I'm very, very, very familiar with it. It's been in my body for about 20 years. So there isn't that much thought that has to go into like, okay, do I remember my steps? Like, I know the steps, I can do them in my sleep. Actually, fun fact, it takes us about a week to put the whole production together for the company members because it's just remembering what we're doing rather than learning what we're doing. So that's just how ingrained it is in our bodies. But I would say before every show, I take a moment to like think about what role I'm doing, go over the steps, like how I want to be intentional on stage, what story I want to tell. So preparing for the Sugar Plum Fairy is very different than Arabian Coffee, who's like this sultry, sexy lady on stage in a bikini. Like you want this kind of characterization rather than like welcoming and friendly, which the Sugar Plum Fairy is. So yeah, there definitely has to be a bit of a mental energy behind what you're doing, but it's just all amazing to be able to play so many different roles and have that differentiation of characters.
Now we are kind of heavy in the arts and performing arts right now, and so like a production that comes over to say the Paramount, a Paramount production, that's a traveling production, and those guys travel. Like we just were over there for Mean Girls, and there's a few other shows, you know, My Fair Lady, Anastasia, all that. Those are traveling. The way the ballet works is that you guys all are here, and then everything that you guys do, your productions, you're here, and so maybe you could talk a little bit more about how that works.
Yeah, so Seattle is our home. We're the Pacific Northwest Ballet, and we are the main ballet company here in this corner of the country. And Nutcracker is our staple. We do it every single year from the day after Thanksgiving until 3 days after Christmas. And we sometimes have 2 shows every day. So as I said, we have 37 shows basically for the entire month of December. So that's a staple for the company every year. And then we have 6 or 7 other what we call repertoires or productions that we put on stage. So coming up, we have Romeo and Juliet in February, which is a beautiful production. We're doing Swan Lake in April, and then like some more modern things as well. So the Nutcracker, you'll see us dancing in point shoes, having tutus on, tiaras, like what you would think is like classical ballet. But then we also dance in socks, and we did a production where it literally rained on stage and we had to dance with water on the floor. So our company is very diverse in the type of repertoire or types of pieces that we do, from like the classics to very modern and contemporary, where we're like slamming on tables and moving scenery. I mean, it's like we do all of it, but Nutcracker is definitely our staple that we do every single year.
Right. You know, I was trying to do some research. They were talking about even nationally, Nutcracker for most ballet companies, that's their biggest production of the year, their biggest pull in. And that's why I said we're really happy that Pacific Northwest Ballet is being intentional in their outreach and everything else, because a lot of times, you know, we don't really get talked to our community traditionally about ballet. And, you know, I wanted to share with you and with our audience here. I got a few photos we'll put up. See, this was my daughter. This is down in Houston 2 years ago. That's me and Victoria. And we went and saw the Nutcracker there in Houston. And my daughter, she wanted to go and see the Nutcracker. And I was like, oh, it's ballet. You know, there's no talking, by the way. And you know, it was such a great experience, and it was such a great daddy-daughter experience, and I mean, it really transformed the way that I think about the ballet. I would never really, I wasn't against it or anything, but I never would think twice about the ballet. I'm like, whatever. But my daughter was like, we have to go see the Nutcracker. And we went down there in Houston. It's an amazing hall, just like here, McCall Hall. And it was just such a fantastic experience. And I, you know, thinking of, like you said, ever since you were 5 years old, you know, you've been doing it's been in your body. Yeah. Was exactly what you were saying. Maybe you could talk about how this is a production for the whole family.
Oh, if any piece that we do or production that we do all year round is the most inclusive family-wise, it's the Nutcracker for sure. It's just a beautiful holiday tradition that can be shared with all generations, all types of people. And it's just such a lovely time to dance, be part of, and then also be in the audience and just share this moment with your granddaughter or your best friend that you wanted to treat, or a new mom, and treat them out to a girls' night. I mean, there's just so many possibilities for the Nutcracker to be this holiday tradition that everyone can share.
Trey Holiday?
Yeah, I mean, this is a beautiful interview here, and just learning about your history with the Nutcracker. One of the things that I think is really connected to us and community is the ways that we intentionally build relationships. And as you talk about being able to be a part of this amazing show for so many years, I want to ask you, how has it felt for you to know that now there's probably young, you know, dancers that are looking up to you to understand what it can mean in terms of their life and a professional dance career, because you're really showcasing that and being able to be connected to it for so long. How does that feel when you have those young girls coming up to you asking for your autograph, or maybe even you encouraging them and looking at themselves as professional dancers as they become adults?
That's probably the most fulfilling part of my career, honestly. Nutcracker is just incredible in that way that it feels like such a full circle experience. So I grew up being a mouse and a soldier and a candy cane in the Nutcracker and looking up to the Sugar Plum Fairy, and then being now the Sugar Plum Fairy and making sure all the kids feel welcomed and safe and comfortable on stage has been just so incredible for me as an artist and a dancer in this company to be able to give back to who was me just a couple years ago as a student. And one of my favorite traditions is we go through a lot of point shoes during Nutcracker because we're dancing so much, and we call them dead when you can't use them anymore. And the cast of children in the Nutcracker write us fan mail and ask for our point shoes, and we sign them, and I like to write their names and say, like, keep dancing or something inspirational, and then you give that to them. And I have under my bed at home in New York City my collection of all the point shoes that I collected and asked for the professional dancers in New York City Ballet that were the Sugar Plum Fairy. And now I am that person giving the shoes to the students, and it's my favorite part of Nutcracker, besides dancing, of course.
Yo, this is so great. I was just gonna say, this is so, like, you're in love with ballet.
Yeah.
It's just undeniable.
COVID actually really taught me that lesson. Like, I've always loved ballet, but having it taken away from me for how many months, years of not being in the theater and the stage, and now being back and having our beautiful audience there supporting us and feeling the energy of everyone out in the audience, everyone on stage, there is nothing like it, really, truly. And so to be able to have this gift back, I will never take it for granted ever again. To have all these beautiful children that are looking up to me and having all the children screaming in the audience, it's really incredible. So I love my job, but I don't call it a job.
All right. Well, before we let you go, we want to let you look into this camera right here, and especially for our you can go ahead and solo in, especially for our audience who might be new and just learning about the Nutcracker. Why should they come out and check you guys out?
If you love spending time with your family and sharing activity and treating yourselves this holiday season, the Nutcracker is an incredible performance production. You can go out to dinner, drinks before or after, and just spend time with your family and friends and watch a beautiful production. Talk to your friends about what your favorite roles are and favorite parts and what you'd want to dance. And then you get to listen to our beautiful live orchestra, watch the beautiful dancers, the kids, adults on stage, and then just share the holiday joy and experience with your friends and family and the whole audience with you.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Cecilia Iliesiu.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to